Looking for a clear, repeatable project workflow? Here's the exact flow I use to design, mold, and finish concrete projects, start to finish. Before any concrete mix hits the bucket, we'll lock in the shape, the thickness, mold splits, finish sequence, and any service or attachment points so that the pouring part is the easy part. Welcome to Timber West Design, where creative ideas meet smart design for everyday living. Where do my ideas come from? Well, I keep a simple inspiration folder on my computer with subcategories for like fire features, speakers, vases, stuff like that. So when it's time to make something, I just review those images and design a piece that really captures the feel of what I'm trying to create. So the goal is my own version of the concept, something that really hasn't been done before. From the idea to the 3D model. So once I have some direction on what I want to build, I move into 3D modeling with my CAD software. And that's where I solve design problems on the screen before I ever print anything or pour any concrete. So I usually start by defining the constraints. So like for a tabletop fire feature, I need to pick the fuel source. So I have this can. If I'm using this specific can, I need to measure the height, the diameter, and then kind of work around those dimensions to make sure this fits. Casting and mold strategy. So I'm always thinking about how am I going to make this part pull? Where is it going to split? I have different pieces that go together. You can kind of see here. You just got to decide how's this all going to split, how's it going to come apart. So that's part of the strategy. So I try to get 2 degrees draft on all my stuff that I'm designing and just make sure everything comes apart clean. So in this particular case, this is actually a future project you'll be seeing. Everything comes apart clean and nice and it's easy to make. If I'm building a speaker, I need to choose the drivers. I need to check the specs and see what the internal volume and decide if the box is going to be sealed or ported or has a passive radiator. So that kind of dictates how big this box is going to be or this shape for the speaker. If there's any cutouts and any port details I need to account for. The next step is 3D print planning. So you have a certain build plate size. You got to obviously make sure it's going to fit onto your build plate. You want to make sure all the flanges work together, everything fits together nicely because it's going to save a lot of time later if you do it right. Firing up the 3D printer. It's time to print now. And you know, watching the prints come to life layer after layer never gets old. Watching your digital creation come to life is just fun. So after printing, you assemble the mold, put on any mold release, and get it ready for casting concrete. I want to thank this week's sponsor, Pale Blue Batteries. You know, I like nice high-end flashlights, and you know what powers my flashlights? Pale Blue rechargeable batteries. What I like about them is I can take a power bank on the go. There's a USB-C port right on the battery. I can plug it in, charge on the go. Pale Blue batteries, they're awesome. How much concrete do you need to make? Well, in the CAD program, you can check the volume of the part, which then you can calculate how much cement you need to make so you're not wasting anything. And that way, I get a drill mixer, get a bucket, mix it up to a smooth consistency, and pour it into the mold. So I generally give a part about 3 hours before I pull. There's a peak heat and then it cools off. So once that happens, I want to get it semi-cool before I demold. And then it's time to take it apart. Look at your part, enjoy it, and then get it ready for the next step. So some of your parts are going to have a parting line. This is where the molds meet. It's not a seam, it's a parting line. There's a difference. Where the parting line meets, you're going to have to sand that smooth, get it ready for primer. Primer and spot putty. So the next step. I love this primer from Rust-Oleum. Works really well. It's a filler primer and it gets a nice heavy thick coat. So I typically do 2 to 3 coats of a primer. When that dries, then I use spot putty to fill any voids after that. And then after that, I take some 150 grit sandpaper, sand it down. Depending on how it looks at that point, I might put some more spot putty on, and I actually might put another coat of primer, just depending on how the finish is looking and what you think you're gonna need next. So now it's time to talk about top coat paint. So I really like this Rust-Oleum Stone Fleck paint. If you're gonna use this, you can finish your primer to 150 grit sandpaper. This will hide any sandpaper scratches from 150 grit. If you want to go smoother, something a little more fine or even gloss, you're going to have to sand the primer to 220, maybe even 320 to make it look good. So once the paint job is done, it's time to put it all together. So if it's a fire feature, might put some stones in there with the fire fuel source. If it's a speaker, now it's time to put the drivers in and the binding posts. So once you get that all put together, you can call it finished. So I hope this walkthrough was useful to you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And if you want to see more build projects, because I have some really fun stuff coming up, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you next time.